Barry Forbes.
And I'm Michelle Michaels.
Join us for a new show on Channel 10, Gay Fairfax.
This month, we'll take a look at some of the legal questions regarding gays adopting children.
And you'll meet therapist Jeannette Paroly, who will help reduce the stress in your life.
This month on Gay Fairfax.
Join us, won't you?
Welcome to Gay Fairfax, a monthly video magazine sharing news, views, and pride. I'm Michelle Michaels.
And I'm Barry Forbes. Each month we'll feature personalities and events of interest to the gay men and women in Fairfax County.
On this edition, psychotherapist Jeannette Paroly will show us some ways to reduce stress.
And we'll talk with Beth Goodman, the president of the Fairfax Lesbian and Gay Citizens Association, about some of the group's goals and activities.
But first, let's take a look at some of the legal aspects of gay people adopting children and gaining custody rights.
In November 1989, the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force sponsored a conference on gay issues. One important topic was regulations affecting gay men and women adopting and providing foster care for children. Nancy Polikoff teaches at the American University Law School. She's handled many custody disputes between lesbian mothers and heterosexual fathers, and is well versed in the rights and limitations of gay parents.
Most of my career in working on lesbian and gay issues has been around parenting issues. It started out being around custody disputes between lesbian mothers and heterosexual fathers, and I have an interesting comment legislatively on that subject, which has, of course, been hot in the lesbian world for decades and will continue to be as long as there are women who get married, have children, and then come out and want their children. And that is that there is only one place in the country, and that's the District of Columbia, that has a statute on the subject of custody by lesbian and gay parents, and it was passed in 1976, and it has never been interpreted by our highest court. In other words, whatever's gone on in the District of Columbia, there's never been a case interpreting that statute that has gone to the Court of Appeals, and it says that, among other things, sexual orientation by itself is cannot be a basis, a conclusive consideration in a custody dispute. Many of you may know that the law across the country on lesbianism or homosexuality as a factor in custody disputes is very varied from state to state, because it's determined by the highest court of the states as these cases have arisen, since there's no statute anywhere else in the country on the subject. There are some states where it clearly is not to be a factor unless an adverse impact is shown on the child, and there are some states where you might as well not think you have a prayer of ever having an overnight visit with your child if you're lesbian or gay. So it really varies dramatically. Legally, almost always, I think we could count on both hands, and maybe if we're lucky we need all our fingers and toes to count the number of two-parent lesbian and gay adoptions there are in the entire country. So that in all of these lesbian and gay families having children, one person is legally recognized as the parent, either the one who gave birth to the child or adopted the child, and the other one is a stranger to the child, just as much as the next door neighbor, the person down the street, anybody else, a complete legal stranger to the child. There's a lot of litigation going on around the country now because, as some of you may have noticed, our relationships don't last any longer than anybody else's. And so these lesbian couples now, this phenomenon has now been around long enough that the couples who have these children are breaking up and having disputes over the care of the children. in which one parent, no matter how much she's been the parent, no matter whether the child has her last name, no matter whether the child calls her mommy, and no matter what has gone on in that family, is not a parent. And in some states, because of the laws not at all having to do with gay and lesbian parents, but having to do with legal strangers to children, otherwise called third parties, that person may be completely out of luck in trying to have any kind of rights to custody or visitation with the child, and is able to be at the whim of the person who has, the parent who has the legal rights, as to his or her continuing contact with the child.
Marcus Hearn, a New Hampshire lawyer, describes the difficulties his group encountered in trying to block child care legislation which excluded gays.
The foster care bill was introduced twice, and its essential content covered four things. It was designed to keep all gay and lesbian people away from children in several ways. First, to prohibit them from being foster parents under any circumstances, with or without parental consent, for short-term emergency purposes or long-term nurturing. All foster care out. It was to outlaw all adoption by gay people. All adoption of minors, whether state-supervised or private, with or without the family's consent, and all adoption of adults. And it was to outlaw any daycare work by any gay or lesbian person. Those were the components: foster care, private adoption, public adoption, and daycare. It was introduced, as I say, once, and didn't get much notice except by those of us who cared a lot. We got pretty well organized and killed it in the sort of traditional backstairs New Hampshire way. You know. Second time around, even though we had the committee under control, it was led by a very aggressive and intelligent, although evil, congressman who will never again be an adjunct professor at our law school. Major push. Very thoroughly organized amongst sort of the Robertson side of the Republican Party, which was at that time also organizing itself well. A lot of letter writing, editorials usually in the statewide paper at least twice a week and sometimes 3 times a week. Extremely aggressive editorials. We had problems fighting it, even though we did better grassroots organizing than we'd ever done before. We, of course, had closet problems because the very people who were most at risk wanted to save the option of being able to lie later on and maybe keep their kids. So we were rather short of examples of the thing that we very much could have proven, which was, here are incredibly admirable, successful, positive people who have been taking care of the kids in need, and how can you possibly say they're no good? Well, we had coalition trouble. A lot of people who were ordinarily very strong on women's issues and on family issues and very concerned with children would get in private in a conversation saying, I know you people have a hard time, but really isn't it a lot better for the kids to grow up in a regular family? And a lot of us came close to losing some useful, if not particularly worthwhile, friendships over that. You can expect that. Maybe I'm telling people who knew it better than I did. But once you start hollering, save the kids, the fact that the choice is not archetypal family versus gay parents, it was, in these cases, lesbian and gay parents versus the dumpster. It got to that point. The chief editorialist of the Union Leader finally wrote an editorial that says, if that's the way they want it, I will say that our paper's position is it is better that the kids run away and live in the streets than that they be under the influence of gay and lesbian people. We're not always, we have successes that were not based on covert behavior. We straight out beat a recriminalization of sodomy thing. There have been other things, but we've done it both ways, very public and very backstairs, and had some successes and some losses both ways.
The conclusion of this session, that gay citizens can gain the legal right to keep their children, to adopt children, and provide foster care. But gaining this right will certainly take time, effort, and commitment.
We We all know what it's like to be stressed, but homophobia can place added pressure on gay people.
There are ways to reduce stress and still be yourself. Jeannette Paroly, a local psychotherapist, talks about coping with life, family, job, and being gay.
The question comes down to, at what cost do we hide? At what cost to ourselves do we hide? What prices are we willing to pay and what prices are we not willing to pay? And I think that's the piece. When it becomes unhealthy for you, when it becomes so stress-producing for you that it becomes difficult for you to be with your family, so that you're the one that's walking around anxious and tense and uncomfortable and not them, the question comes down to, how is it that they are less able to deal with it and you're the strong person that can deal with the stress and anxiety? And how is it that you'll protect them but you won't protect yourself? And that's the piece that you've got to ask yourself. Who are you protecting? What is that protecting about? What is so frightening to you in terms of dealing with your family? And I'm not even talking about coming out. I think that there are some families that if you really believe that you are going to be booted out of that house, you may in fact be booted out of that house. You've got to examine that. And if that for you is the worst thing that could happen, then you have to figure out how you can live your life and live it in a way that's comfortable for you and still, if you want, have them in your life. Maybe the only way to do it is by living 3,000 miles away. That's an option. It's not maybe the best of circumstances, but everybody cannot come out to their families. Our experience has always been that our parents have the power, is that as we get older, we have an awful lot of power in our relationships with our family, and that our family, in fact, whether they want to admit it or not, and that's a big issue, but whether they want to admit it or not, we have as much power in that relationship as they do, because guess what? They want to be in our lives as much as we want to be in their lives. And we have a tendency to forget. We think, oh my God, they may reject us. Well, they don't want to be rejected either. And so we have a tendency to think, well, they're our parents and they can do these terrible things to us. What we tend to forget is they believe the same thing about us. They're so afraid of us walking away and rejecting them. And so that's the piece that I think might be helpful when you walk in and you are with your family. What you need to remember is, wait a minute, I'm an adult. I'm powerful. They want me in their life. And guess what? That means some kind of compromise. That means that they're going to have to accept some things from me. And they're watching me to give them cues about how to behave. They don't have a whole lot of experience in at least that they know of dealing with gays and lesbians. See, one of the things that frequently happens is that we wind up blocking out an awful lot of what we don't talk about, because a lot of what our lives may entail our involvement with gay and lesbian issues. And so we cut this out, and we cut that out, and we cut this out. And guess what? That leaves the weather to talk about. And so we begin to feel like we are talking to them on a very shallow level. We begin to feel like they don't know anything about us. And higher anxiety occurs because we're so busy, because we're so used to, those of us who spend time with gay and lesbian friends, and we're so used to talking about these things that when we get with our family, it's like, well, what can I talk about? And I'm not supposed to talk about that, and I'm not supposed to. You wind up sitting there censoring things, which means you're sitting there the whole time because you're afraid of what might slip out. And so, again, that puts a tremendous amount of stress on us. We physically tense up. We physically, hold it all in because we have to be careful about what comes out. It was a way of being able to talk about myself without dealing with the confrontation of what that was about. And so there are times, I think for me, there are times when I pick and choose what is the exact gist that I want to get at. What specifically do I want to talk about? And there are times when I'm not able to specifically say gay or lesbian. And those are times that I choose to be a chicken, and at the same time, what it then does is it affords me the opportunity to talk about what I'm really feeling about and what it is that's going on in my life. So for me, that's the compromise sometimes. Because even in being out, there are times when dealing with the anxiety and the tension that would come at me is just not worth it to me. And I have to pick and choose sometimes. You come out over and over and over again. Just because we come out once, whatever that means, and it's a whole process, but we do it almost daily. We do it when we're carrying a book that we bought at Lambda Rising or Lamas or The Blade, and we sort of decide how we want to carry the book. Do we carry the blade like folded inward? Do we shove it in? Lamas has these great paper bags. They have these great patterns on them, you know. So I always want one of the bags, but I don't necessarily want her to put the books in the bags because I like to use them as wrapping paper, the truth be known. But the other fact is, sometimes when I'm in a particularly gutsy mood, I want to carry the blade. I want people to see that I'm carrying the blade. Let them feel uncomfortable for a change. I'm tired of being the one that's feeling uncomfortable. And so every once in a while, when I'm in that mood, I will carry that blade, and people can think what they want or whatever particular book I'm carrying. But we're coming out when we're doing that. And when there's someone new at work, and the person new at work is sort of talking about her husband or his wife or whatever, and they're saying, so what did you do this weekend? And you're just sort of go, well, here we go again. We did this. Oh, you have a boyfriend? No. I have a girlfriend. Oh. And we keep coming back to we're going to be rejected. We are so fragile. I don't see anybody in this room. I mean, I'm assuming a lot, and I don't mean to be, I don't mean to pass it off as something easy. But I don't see anybody in this room who has not been through an awful lot of pain in their life, an awful lot of difficulty in their life, and you have all lived through it. And that's the piece that we're forgetting. We are strong, powerful people, and that because someone doesn't like us doesn't destroy us. And we forget that because it hurts. I don't have to say I'm gay or lesbian, but I can talk about my life. I can't say, oh, Becky and I did this and Becky and I did that. And eventually they're going to go, who's Becky? And eventually they're going to say, I wonder what the story is. And so they're going to think about it. They may never confront it. I may never even say anything to them. They can do with it what they want. I don't have to necessarily use the label if I don't feel comfortable doing that. But I don't have to lie either. What should you be doing to reduce stress? Number one, physically taking care of your health. Number two, you should be finding times that you have time to be with yourself so that you can examine what your values are, so you can examine what you're feeling, so that you can take a moment and say, what do I want? Do I want to go to this wedding? What am I feeling about it? To give yourself permission to say, I do come first, and I need to figure out how I can take care of me. In terms of your families, you've got to have time to figure out who you are, and if you go to visit your families in a different location where you have to stay overnight, that you find times and ways, and there are all kinds of tricks to it, of going off and having time by yourself. If you're there going by yourself and you have a friend or lover at home, that you find ways to make phone calls so that you have that constant energy, that before you go, you have a party or you have a bunch of people or you go to a meeting like this. When you come back, you go to a meeting like this, you have your friends and family around you, family meaning family here, so that you're constantly restored. You say, oh yeah, I'm good, I feel good. Maybe they don't like me and maybe they have a hard time with them, but I'm okay and I'm good.
It's not easy being out in Fairfax County, or Virginia for that matter, but there is a group working from the grassroots level to improve the life of every gay citizen.
The Fairfax Lesbian and Gay Citizens Association produces many political and social activities which bring a real sense of community to gays in Fairfax County.
With us is Beth Goodman, who will talk to us about the group and some of its plans. Thanks for being with us, Beth.
Hi.
Thank you for having me, Michelle.
Tell us, what is the purpose of FLGCA?
Well, the purpose of FLGCA, as set up by in our bylaws, is basically to give the gay and lesbian community in Fairfax County some sort of a feeling of community, which we achieve through a social function, and also to do some educating in the general population of Fairfax County, and to address political issues as they arise when we feel that it's appropriate for our attention.
Well, tell me, Beth, have you had any real negative reaction to the formation of the group or any activities you've had so far?
Actually, Barry, the reaction to FLGCA has been most positive. We have met with some of our county government officials, and basically they've been very supportive. Of course, we have had some reaction to this very television show recently, which has been quite interesting, but we feel that we are throwing out a fairly positive image in the community.
That's great.
What are some of the accomplishments of FLGCA this year?
Well, we are still, by all intents and purposes, a fairly new organization, and we're still getting our projects off the ground. We do have a brochure in print. We have done some political action in terms of, we've met with Audrey Moore, we've met with folks from the Human Rights Commission. We have been working on a Speakers Bureau, and I was honored to be a part of the Fairfax County AIDS Task Force over a year ago. So those are just a very few of the things that we've done, and I think that's pretty outstanding for an organization that's just coming into its second year.
Well, that seems like a lot of activities. What do you have planned coming up in the fall for FLGCA, Beth?
Well, we, again, are just kind of winging it, Barry. We have a very active board of 9 members, and our membership is still growing. We have about 181 paid members. We are constantly just out looking for gay and lesbian people in Fairfax County to become active, and we're still looking to get our Speakers Bureau up and running. That's one of our main objectives. We are very proud of this particular television show, and I think as things arise, we will address them.
Well, you're really accomplishing a lot, it seems. Tell us, how did you get involved in FLGCA?
Well, as I was previewing the questions that were going to be asked me, I was laughing at that particular question because the real answer to that question is that Barry Forbes recruited me, my dear friend to my left here. I had been active in various organizations and gay and lesbian activities, basically in the District of Columbia, and Barry and I were friends, and this organization was happening in August of '88, and I did receive, honestly and truthfully, a phone call from Barry Forbes one night saying, I have an organization for you, we need a good active woman, and that's really sort of how it's happened, and I have put a lot of my life's blood into the organization and feel that it's been a very important part of my life.
Now, Beth, you and I both know that there are a lot of gay organizations in the D.C. area. They seem to have a lot of men involved, but here you are president of the Fairfax group. Are there a lot of other groups which have women as president, or are they all run by men, pretty much?
That's a pretty controversial question. To my knowledge, most of the organizations that are similar to ours are indeed headed by men. And I guess in terms of the mixed organizations, if you will, men and women, basically the lesbians, unfortunately, have not come to the leadership positions that are available. So while I guess I am somewhat of a first in terms of being a lesbian woman president of a major political organization of this kind, I also hope that other lesbians will take the cue and step into leadership positions in male-female organizations. It certainly has not been a frightening experience, and I think that this is a new era for the gay and lesbian community, and there are positions of leadership available to women if they seek them.
What would you say your toughest challenge is right now for your organization?
Well, I think that's a two-pronged answer, Michelle. I think as far as our own community is concerned, just simply still getting to know each other and encouraging people to join and be active in an organization of this kind. You're absolutely right in your opening comments. We do have a lot of gay and lesbian people in Fairfax County and Northern Virginia that aren't terribly out. That is by no means a criticism or a judgment statement. I understand the reasons why, but we try to make our organization as safe a place as possible, and I would like to take this opportunity to encourage the gay and lesbian people of Fairfax County to come out and be a part of this organization. In terms of our goals, I guess our ongoing struggle is just to continually educate the mainstream population, the heterosexual population. I think the show is doing a good job of that.
Terrific. Now, Beth, I know that you lived in the area for a long time now, and I know you've seen a lot of changes in Northern Virginia. But I'm sure you also must have a real vision of what you want Fairfax County to be for gay men and women. Could you share with us that sense of vision that you have for Fairfax County and particularly for gay men and women?
Well, again, I sound like I'm sort of answering all the questions in the same way, but I think that's because we really have a few very simple basic goals, and that is to be assimilated into the general population of Fairfax County in particular, or anywhere that we may be living and working, while being allowed to be ourselves insofar as that's pertinent. And of course, we're hoping to eventually someday, it may never happen, it may not happen very soon, but we would like to see sexual orientation included in the Human Rights Ordinance of Fairfax County, which means that it would be illegal for anyone to discriminate in terms of housing, jobs, or anything else because someone is gay or lesbian. So I guess basically our vision in the organization, and my personal vision, is just a day when I can walk down the street of Fairfax County with my girlfriend hand in hand, and that be not something that people would stop and look at twice. That I can wear my gay pride t-shirt into the supermarket or whatever I choose to do totally unabashedly.
Well, you've convinced me. I'd love to join the organization. Tell me, how do I get to be a member? What's involved with being a member? And how would a person take the first step to get involved?
Okay. If you do happen to read The Blade, we're advertising The Blade from time to time. And we have our general membership meeting the fourth Monday night of every month, excluding June, July, and August, September through May. The fourth Monday night of every month, we have a general membership meeting. Second Saturday of every month, we have a social, and at all these events, there are membership forms and friendly people that are there to welcome you into the organization.
Terrific. Well, thank you. You're a wonderful spokesperson for the group. How long do you think you'll be with the group?
How long will I be with the group? Well, as you know, Barry, one burns out very quickly from doing this kind of work as much as we love it. So in January, I step down from the presidency, and we'll see what the future holds for me.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Beth Goodman, for being with us today.
If you'd like Gay Fairfax to feature your organization or announce an upcoming event, please give us a call or write to us.
The Gay Fairfax team appreciates letters of support, so feel free to write to us anytime you'd like. For Gay Fairfax, I'm Barry Forbes.
And I'm Michelle Michaels. Remember to keep the pride alive.